Hello, my name's Tom Adcock. I'm a tax partner here at Gravita. I hope you enjoyed Michaela Lamb's presentation on coming to the UK for the first time. I'm on here to talk to you a little bit about what happens when you come back. So that's someone who's left the UK to work overseas perhaps, and then decides for whatever reason that they want to come back to the UK and live here. There's quite a few things to think about. The first one is, how long have you been away? Because if you've been away for less than 5 UK tax years, then it's possible that you'll be taxable in the UK on something you might have earned or a gain you might have made whilst you're out of the country living elsewhere. That is quite an important thing to remember. It's called being temporarily non-resident, and it's anti-avoidance legislation to stop me jumping ship, going and living in another country, triggering a massive gain on something I might have, which I don't, and not paying any tax on it, and then coming back a year later and living off that money. So just be aware of that. The second thing is that you're leaving a country. Never forget that. And you may be living in a country that doesn't necessarily tax you. Might be one of the reasons why you went there. But you do have to pay attention to what happens when you leave. So how do you exit that country? Does it charge taxes on exit? Some countries do. We don't yet. So you need to be mindful of that. And what are you going to do with your stuff that you may have already built there? You may have property there, you may have a house there, you may have investments there. So what is going to happen to them when you come back to the UK? Does that country tax you if you retain them? Do you benefit from leaving and then divesting your assets? What is the right strategy? And then, of course, you have to think about what happens when you come back. So from the UK standpoint, how are you going to be taxed on coming back into the UK? And planning for that's really important. You would have heard from Michaela's presentation about what it is to be a long-term resident here in the UK and some of the benefits that come with the new regime that was introduced just last year. So for someone who's been gone for more than 10 years, then there is a real opportunity. Despite the fact you might carry a British passport, you might have been born and bred here. If you come back after being away for 10 years, then you might benefit from what's called the FIG regime. So you can receive income and gains from all over the world and not pay any tax here, even if you use that money in the UK. It's quite a complicated system, as you would imagine, and it's brand new. So we're still understanding it as much as we can with our clients. But it is very valuable to people if they can access it. And then, of course, bear in mind that once you come back, then you start to fall back into the UK inheritance tax net, which is fairly nasty tax. 40% on your net worth when you die, and potentially 20% when you give some of it away to trusts. So there are lots of things to think about when you're coming back to the UK, but I completely understand why people do, and we're seeing more and more clients who've left for good reason to go and live and work overseas and have decided to come back. Typically it's because they've moved somewhere that they really enjoyed going to, but living there is different. And the familiarity isn't there. So they look for somewhere that they're going to be happier, and UK may be that place. So they come back for that reason. I always say to clients who are looking for somewhere to live somewhere else in the world, choose somewhere that you know you can live in. Choose somewhere that you can be comfortable in. Singapore is a beautiful place to go. Fantastic place. Love it. It's great. But some of their rules are a bit tricky. I don't chew chewing gum, for example. However, if you do chew chewing gum on a bus in Singapore, you might go to jail. So you need to know these things, and can you live inside that environment? And every country has their own little forward one. So in short, if you are looking to come back, really think about it, really plan for it, understand what the situation is going to be in the country you're leaving, what the situation is going to be when you come here, and if there's anything you can do between those two occasions in order to maximise any tax savings that you might have. I'll give you a recent example of a client that we've been working with for a number of years. Husband and wife, a couple of young kids. Husband gets a job over in Dubai. Like many other people, he and his wife and their 2 young children leave the UK to go live in Dubai. Kids go to school over there, buy a house there, and everything's going quite nicely. And then what happened. So they became very uncomfortable. They feared for the children's safety, and the wife and the 2 children got on a plane and came back to the UK. what happens next. So the wife becomes a UK tax resident again, and the husband is in Dubai and he's working. Now, in the UK, we don't have what the Americans would refer to as joint filing. We treat everybody as individuals, broadly speaking. And so whilst wife becomes UK tax resident, he doesn't. So from a tax perspective, this can work quite nicely. But of course, couples don't usually like spending that much time apart from one another. And he wants to spend time with his wife and he wants to spend time with his children. So he will want to come to the UK much more often perhaps than he did before when they were all living overseas. Now, having that many connecting factors, as we call them, in the UK means that his number of days that he can spend in the UK without becoming a UK tax resident again are limited. And so that creates a real challenge. And I will say to almost all clients that tax should not be the driving force behind the decision which you make where you live. It is more important to think about your family and think about your friends and where you want to spend your time than how much tax you're paying, usually. So he, to finish the story, has just decided to become UK tax resident and pay taxes on most of his income that he earns overseas. So if you are living overseas and you're looking to return to the UK, then the best thing to do is talk to your advisor. If that's us, excellent. If it isn't, why not? Should be us. But if you do have an advisor, please go and talk to them to understand how best to do this, to make sure that maybe you can save some tax on the way. But even if you can't, at least you know what the outcome is going to be so you can plan for that.